Does anybody actually call you anything but T.O., dude?
I mean, people, they make attempts to pronounce my name or call my name. I mean, the default is T.O., but yeah, it's Terrell. But a lot of people like to mispronounce it because you would think journalists and commentators,
or podcast
their
hosts,
journalistic ethics and all that stuff, that they would want to pronounce my name correctly.
Hey, how would you say O.C. Umanura's last name?
Umanura?
Yeah.
O.C. Umanura.
Okay, because he hit us with this. He was on the pod Tuesday, and he hit us with this.
Yeah,
tell T.O. what he said.
Umanura.
He said people have been saying it wrong for 11 years.
Umanura.
Umanura. Ooh, like ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Umanura.
Yeah, that shocked me.
Well, I mean, but he allowed people to say it the wrong way. Umanura.
Hey, your middle name is El Dorado?
Yes, and I actually I've come out with a candle line, and one of my candles is we came up with a fragrance derived from my middle name, El Dorado, which is I think is it a French? It's a
Cadillac.
I think it's a French or Spanish meaning that means golden child or golden one. Ooh. So the gold candle vessel that we have derived from my middle name is called Le Doré.
Oh, that's tight. I didn't even know your middle name.
That's awesome.
All right, cool. First question, T.O. All right, we've been having a debate in this studio all week, okay?
And this is not a trick
don't
question.
Hold it up. He knows what the Gatorade looks like.
Okay.
He's drank a lot of it probably over his career.
Not a trick question. What color is lemon lime Gatorade?
Lemon lime? It would be like a yellow.
That's exactly
he's team
right.
Yellow.
Thank you.
T.O., I'm team green, dude. So it's all good. But
here it is. You can see it. It's yellow.
Green? It's not green.
Oh, come on. We just had a color expert on who said it was at least greenish.
He said it was in the yellow.
It's maybe
family.
a derivative of green. Maybe have some green undertone, but it's yellow.
It's got green tendencies, though.
For being a yellow color.
Okay, that's fine. T.O.'s a fucking team yellow. It's
We're all
good.
on the same page.
We're not arguing over it. It's to each his own. Hey, T.O., Dez came back last year. Ocho said he would come back and play with the Saints. What does T.O. need to come back and play in the NFL? At 47, what would it take?
Just an opportunity to show that, number one, that I'm in condition, I'm capable of playing. And I've said it all along. I mean, I haven't actively, sought out to play. But it's so funny. An interesting situation came up some months ago, and with an owner of a team, and I'm not going to disclose anything, but he looked at me and he saw just my physical, through my clothes. He just saw what kind of shape I was in. He goes, "Man, you look like you can still play." And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, I've always said that I could still play. I never retired. And even when I last played, it wasn't because I couldn't play. It was just for whatever reason, the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll, they didn't retain me. But to answer your question, it just need to be the right situation to understand somebody of my caliber. Number one, like I said, all I need to do is just come in and show you, obviously, whatever you need to see from me, route running wise, shape wise. But outside of that, you look at, certain situation, obviously you know that I'm older, so you put me in the right situation. And I think with a team that could use, number one, someone of my veteran leadership, I can teach and groom a team with some young budding stars. You think about certain situations during the course of the game, and Chris, you think about third down situation, you think about red zone. Those are situations and areas where I know I would obviously be advantageous. You think about the red zone, that's 20 to 30 yards. Obviously, you give that, about another 10 yards of end zone. I can run routes in my sleep in 20 to 30 yards. And so obviously you think about mismatches, things of that nature. Obviously, like I said, it has to be the right situation, right team, coach, who understands. Obviously, I'm an older player, this and that and the other. But like I said, if I get myself in the right condition and shape, depending on, who that is or who I'm playing for, then like I said, I'm sure the reps will increase. But initially starting out, yeah, you think at third down, red zone situations, I'm your guy.
So you could get buckets in the red zone right now.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I've been running routes and training and doing some stuff just to kind of activate, a lot of these things that I haven't been activated in a while. But yeah, I mean, I've been running on the track just to get myself in shape, doing things that, kind of, fine tune some things, get my feet under me. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping this podcast, this interview can go viral. But I mean, I would echo the same sentiments of Chad. And I know Chad obviously could play. We know that Chad, obviously, his career got cut short for some personal reasons. But prior to that, the guy could play. And I think, obviously, now I think he can still play today as well as I can.
What was it like racing Tyreek last year?
It was good. For me, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I'm mad at myself because I should have put more stakes to it. I should have increased the wager. But I knew personally, because I know who I am. I mean, I know my body better than anybody. So he basically thought that just because obviously he's one of the fastest guys in the National Football League, but he thought he literally was going to give me 10 steps, whatever it was, which was about 9 yards. Mm-hmm. And he thought he was going to beat me in 100. I'm like, dude, are you crazy? Like, I get it. The confidence was really high. Obviously, his confidence was a lot taller than he was. But there was no way that he was going to give me at least 9 to 10 yards and he was going to beat me in 100. There's no way.
Did you used to race guys when you played?
Actually, I've done it 3 times. One time I put my game check on the line. That was when I was with the Philadelphia Eagles. Ask Freddie Mitchell. Freddie Mitchell can tell this story. Yeah, he can tell this story better than anybody. And I reference Freddie is because he put his game check on someone else to beat me. He, number one, couldn't beat me, but he put his game check on someone else to beat me. And at that given time, one of my game checks was in excess of $100 grand. And I think one of his game checks was, anywhere from 30 to 50 grand or what have you. So with that being said, he put his money on Sean Moria, who was our gunner at the time. White guy, quick, fast. But with me, my speed is very deceptive because I'm a long strider. So for whatever reason, he literally thought that he was going to beat me. Right. So I don't even know if any coaches know about this or even heard of it.
They would have been nervous.
Yeah, so we literally, after practice one day, we went to the bubble. Yeah, you remember. Yeah. So we went from the grass field, went to the bubble, and we ran a 40. Yeah. And so Sean was like, "Oh, what do you want to run? You want a 40 or the 100?" So for me, the 100, I would have blown him out the water. Right. Because that's my strength. The further down the field I get, the faster I get. And so I challenged myself to race him in a 40-yard dash, which is a disadvantage to me. Because if I get a slow start, and obviously he's quicker than I am, and I knew he was, then I'm going to be playing catch up. So I knew that I had to get out on him, and I beat him probably like about a step and a half.
Wow. Well, who were the other lucky or unlucky folks you raced?
Prior to that, there was this guy we had. My first time doing it was in San Francisco. We had gone to we played in a preseason game in Osaka, Japan. Yeah. And so we had a guy that was on our squad, played receiver. His name is Michael Jennings. And he was I think he had tried out for the Olympics or whatever, or he was a track guy. And so we raced in front of the media and I beat him. That was the first time. Yeah. And then I think the third time was when I raced Pac-Man Jones with the Cowboys. And I beat him too.
You beat Pac-Man? I figured you probably beat Pac-Man. Him too. Do you miss?
No, but Pac-Man is fast. Like, he's quick and he's fast. Yeah. Like Chad, like he won't race me. I know if you follow social media, me and Brandon Marshall, we've been trying to get this race going for like the last, probably like year or so. But Brandon keeps backing out. He called me out by to race me for $100 grand and backed out on two proposed dates. And so. Yeah, we're trying to see if that's going to ever happen. But my thing with Chad, everybody thinks that, wants me and Chad to race, but Chad will never race. He'll talk to where you would think, he's fast. But I will be the first to admit Chad is quicker than he is fast.
When you play with, I'm sure you play with a few great slow receivers. And I don't mean like slow, like just relative to other guys who are lined up outside.
I wouldn't say slow. They just have average speed for the receiver position.
Yeah, relatively slower than you. I just look at it like, what are the keys to surviving at that position? What's an example of a guy who he made the most out of his physical ability more than people even realized?
I'll probably say Danny Amendola.
Yeah, Dola.
Yeah, and I say that I remember his first year with the Dallas Cowboys. I think we may have been in training camp.
Hard Knocks.
And we had Hard Knocks. And so I saw, like, immediately, I kind of saw, kind of what we eventually saw people got to see down the road with him. But, I mean, you think about these guys who are, late draft picks or undrafted free agents that come into camp and they're vying for a position or a job. And I saw this guy, he was a hard worker. And again, he's not a physical specimen by any means. But I saw his work ethic. I saw his willingness to learn. And I was one of those guys, like, I wasn't as vocal, but, I think I took the same approach as, that Jerry Rice, had with me and other receivers that came in year after year. I mean, he was available. I mean, he wasn't going to just offer you information, but he led by example.
Right.
And so when you have guys like that, I kind of adopted, some of those same approaches, to how I perfected my craft. And I wanted to share a little bit of the knowledge with some of the guys. So I was always accessible. And Damian Amendola, he was one of those guys. I mean, he kind of just soaked everything up. And if I saw, honestly, that, guys needed to improve on anything, or if I saw something to really enhance, what they already have, or tweak a few things, then, if it was something just eye-popping that stood out, then I would give them that feedback. But, I was always open to guys that came in year after year that were free agents, that really kind of watched me when they were in high school or college, and now they're on the same playing field or practice field and wanted to know, okay, how do you get better? And so Danny Amendola was one of those guys that I saw, in training camp. I mean, hard worker. Again, took advantage of the opportunities that were given to him, and he made himself into really kind of a slot receiver. You think of, Wes Welker. You think of
Jules and
Edelman, Edelman. Those guys like that. So. He's one of those guys.
What's the key to being you're great, obviously, number one. I mean, for my money, maybe the best that ever did it. I'm looking at guys that are number twos and have carved out careers being number twos. And it's kind of like people look at them differently, but that's a different skill set probably in and of itself. What are the keys to being a supporting role, kind of the Robin in a receiver room?
I think the keys are just taking advantage of the opportunities, knowing that the number one is going to, he's going to make plays. He's going to, obviously take a bulk load of kind of the plays or passes. But a really solid number two is somebody that's going to benefit from the double teams. There are going to be games where, the number one guy is going to be taken out of the game plan, just with, defensive coverages. And then, just depending on what the game plan is to attack, the opponent. So you can be a number two and put up number one type numbers,
right?
But that doesn't mean you're a number one. Right. Because once that number one leaves and you're put in that number one position, then you're going to have to duplicate what you did as a number two. And that's hard to come by. And there's been a couple of examples that I've seen throughout the course of my career where just because you're a number two and you putting up number one numbers and then, you go off on your own free agency and you're getting paid like a number one, then you're going to have to produce like a number one.
Right.
But just because you're getting paid like a number one doesn't mean you're going to play like you're number one. And there's been a couple of examples of that. Back when I played, when you think of maybe, like I said, I'm not dating myself, but I remember with the Buffalo Bills, they had two receivers that were, pretty dynamic, and Eric Mose and Peerless Price.
Right. And
Eric Mose he was the number one guy with the Buffalo Bills. And because of the attention that he garnered, and Peerless benefited from that, and he was putting up, kind of like equal or better numbers than Eric Mose. And then he went into the free agent market and got paid like a number one.
Yeah.
And he went to the Atlanta Falcons. And might I tell you, and might I say, he didn't pan out so well. Just because you got paid like a number one, you're going to have to produce like you're number one. And he didn't do that with Atlanta Falcons. And I mentioned that before, and he got upset because I pointed that out. And it wasn't anything personal. I just as you told, as we're discussing now, I'm just pointing out what I saw and what the facts were. Now you look at a situation, the current situation that I noticed, where you have a number one and the number two guy, and a number two guy is really putting up big numbers. It's, a couple of years ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you had Antonio Brown and Juju.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Juju does a lot of things. He does a lot of great things for the football team, but a number one is a number one, right? So it's just a different kind of great. You block, you do a lot of awesome stuff.
A number one, you're going to have to be like, you're going to have to be a dog. Like no matter what, you're going to be looked upon to do the dirty work. You're going to be looked upon to make the amazing plays. Yeah. You're going to be looked upon to make plays out of no plays. Mm-hmm. And those numbers have to reflect that. And so you saw that once Antonio Brown left, now Juju is in that position. So sometimes, like I said, you may want that glory and that attention to be a number one, but are you equipped to handle that and do that? And some guys aren't.
What's the craziest thing anybody ever did to try to take you away, being that number one guy?
Oh my gosh, I remember this. I love this question. I was in Dallas. And I remember Michael Irvin was on the sideline. I didn't know he had come to the sideline, but I had gone out, flanked out right toward on the right side of the formation, and we just happened to be on our side. I was close to our sideline with the Cowboys. And when I went out, I didn't notice, but they had put a defensive back on me, and they put a linebacker on me as well, and they had a safety over top.
And an angel.
So literally, it was almost like I felt like a gunner.
Yeah.
For a second, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, what is this? And I remember, Urban's reaction on the sideline. He couldn't believe it. He was like, "Yo, what is this? Like, I've never seen anything like that."
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a lot like that Megatron picture that's been going around with him and two players on the other team down in the red zone kind of splitting him in the low red, which is insane. So
right. And so, I mean, for me, that let me know that not that I had arrived, but that I was a force to be reckoned with. And so that's a good feeling to have. When the defense is sacrificing, one of their interior guys to go out and cover, a guy that's pretty dominant on the outside.
Yeah, the best compliment I could ever get, or I didn't get it ever anywhere near as much as you, but like if somebody on the other team was like, "Oh, we talked about you," or we had to worry about you, or we planned something for you, and that's the true measure of how great you are.
Right. I mean, I think I was thinking last year or year before, Ray Lewis, I got to talk to him a little bit, and his son and my son were going to school at FAU, and we just had a chance to just sit back and talk. And he was talking about game week and leading up to the games. Like we have you have those guys marked out, like who's important, like who's the most dominant. Who you need to stop and things of that nature. And so I was one of those guys that, I was a point of emphasis, for the defense of not to let me get the ball. And obviously, like I said, once I get the ball in my hands, I'm obviously going to try to do something special with it.
More than 1,000 catches in your career. If you're directing the highlight reel of your career, are you closing with that 98 wildcard game where you're sandwiched at the goal line on the game winner from Steve Young?
I don't know if I'm closing out with that. I honestly, I wish I could. I wish somebody could give me a clip or make me up a highlight tape of all 153 of my touchdowns. And I'm sure.
My producer. Hey, Cowboy
we can do
Reed,
that for
get
you.
The fucking by the end of the day.
Yeah, I want it to be like really something special, like with the music in the background, some cinematics to it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would close with it. But I've had a number of catches that I think when you think of 153 touchdowns, like some I've probably even forgotten, but there's a lot, I mean, of 153, there's a lot of touchdowns that a lot of fans haven't seen.
Right.
And so even now when people talk about like who's the greatest receiver, they start comparing myself and Randy and Jerry. Again, Randy made some great over the top catches. You know, that's what made him special. But I think of all of us, all three of us, I always say that I was a mixture of Randy and Jerry with a little sprinkle of T.O. in there because I embodied a little bit of both of those guys, but I added that element of that physicalness, the physicality of the game. And with all of us, we had that run after catch. But I think I was just a unique, you know, I ran with power. I ran with passion. And I think, you know, that was part of the West Coast offense as I knew it and I adopted to it, was that, you know, we took the short pass and we took it the distance. I wasn't really known as one of those guys that took to take the top off the defense until I got to Philly. And that was because I had a quarterback that, you know, that had a hose of an arm in Donovan McNabb. And that's not a discredit to, the quarterback that I had in San Francisco, but you have to just call it for what it is. Jeff Garcia wasn't that, you know, pocket type of prototypical pocket passer, right, where he had an arm that he's going to throw 50 to 60 yards down the field. And then I only had a few years with Steve Young, so I didn't really get to gel and really flourish under him like I know I probably could have, as he and Jerry had that connection. So when I went to Philly, people really got to see the speed that I had, and obviously in Dallas as well, playing with Tony Romo.
With Jeff, was Jeff right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
So how big of a difference was that going from Steve, who is great anyways, and like again, no, not taking anything away from Jeff by comparing him to Steve, right, but there's only a couple Steve Youngs in the history of the game. Right. So like Jeff was actually, he was in St. Louis when I was there. He did a grad assistant kind of year, and he's the coolest dude ever. But as far as like catching a ball from him after Steve Young, lefty to righty, is there a big difference with?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you feel it immediately after catching so many passes, or a few years of Steve Young catching the rotation of a lefty, and then you catch it, you know, from a righty. It's going to enter your hands a bit differently, and it's going to spin differently. So, so that's something that I had to get adjusted to and accustomed to. But again, it only takes, you know, maybe a few practices or so to get that to get familiarized with it.
Another thing besides like, which I had no idea, because if I'm catching a football, it's an accident. But like, you know, but over the years, I heard receivers tell me like, oh, that guy throws a really catchable ball, or that quarterback that I thought was really good, he may be really good and productive, but man, you don't like catching the balls he throws. Were there guys that threw like an underrated catchable ball that you played for that maybe weren't as good, but you loved catching footballs from them?
I mean, there's a number of backup guys. I mean, they just don't get the opportunity. For whatever reason.
What is a catchable ball? What I mean, like, put that into terms for a D lineman.
For a catchable ball, obviously, I would obviously think that it's obviously a ball that's consistently in the catch radius. Of the receiver, and depending on, I guess, the route that's being thrown, where the location of the ball. Again, you think about deep balls, you have certain guys, and you see that their balls are like always on time. Like there's the trajectory of a beautiful pass. I mean, I'm thinking of now, I'm envisioning NFL films, and it's slow-mo, and you see that ball released from the quarterback's hand, and it's just going at the trajectory at a flight to the receiver's hands. And the receiver doesn't have to even break stride.
I'm thinking about Nick Foles throwing to Torrey Smith on the flea flicker in our NFC Championship game against the Vikings. That thing just was like a punt and fell right in his hands.
Exactly. I mean, that's a skill set. I mean, you think about one that I'm thinking of now, that when we're talking about just precision and timing, just think about the pass that Eli threw to what's the name double, it was covered too. And it went right in between the safety and the corner, right on the outside edge, and Cunningham made that catch on the sideline, and that was I think it was a key third down play. So those are things like that, man, that makes the game of football so beautiful.
Yeah.
And you think about the skill set of some of these guys that are, like I said, aren't known for throwing the ball deep and down the field, but just the trajectory and just the ball accuracy of some of these guys is a beauty to watch.
You mentioned Donovan's arm. You guys obviously had some back and forth. Are you guys better than you were now, or is it like still kind of a thing that needs some work?
I mean, it is what it is. We've talked about it and we've gone back and forth, and he brought up an issue and it resurfaced. I thought we had talked through it. I thought we were done with it. But at the end of the day, man, I've been very complimentary of what we accomplished while I was playing, even after. And obviously there are people that know that he wasn't or hasn't been so complimentary to the fact that I assisted in his development as a quarterback and his skill set. And you think about, if you look at, what his stats were before and when and after I got there, there's a common denominator. It was number 81. And so I've always said that I couldn't do what I did without a quarterback. And so for me, reporters had questioned him about, they saw the increase in areas of his game. And for whatever reason, he kind of just miffed at the fact that I was a common denominator of doing that. And so I don't understand, why it was, he had such a disdain against the idea that I was helping him, reach, different statistics and increasing in different areas. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I wouldn't be able to do what I did without a capable quarterback and the ball being, put in the right position and places. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. Those are guys. I mean, I guess they're insecure in their own ways for whatever reason. And it seems like it's a personal problem, to me, for them. So I just always been confident in what I did and what I brought to the table. And I've been very complimentary of the guys that helped me along the way.
Do you think quarterbacks and receivers have to be best buddies to be really productive together? Or can you
not at all.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that as one, but yeah.
Yeah. There are times there are times I was pissed, in San Francisco at some of the things that were going on, with the quarterback or my coach or what have you. And I didn't allow those things to really manifest or deter what I was supposed to do on the football field. I didn't feel like that would, bode well. Obviously, anything that I did was magnified. And so with the situations that was going on, if I went out there and I played poorly, then that was only going to validate, what the media was saying or whatever the situation was going on at that time. So I was a strong-minded individual, and I just went out there and just played because I knew, like, at the end of the day, we're all teammates. We're all, gunning for the common goal of winning football games, and ultimately we wanted to win a championship. So I didn't allow those minute type of issues to really, filter to onto the field and really just really disrupt the chemistry.
The craziest thing was the injury that you played through. To get back in that Super Bowl, and obviously it's something you're waiting for your whole life. So a lot of people say you'd have to drag me off the field. Like you were really about that. Like, talk to me about what was the most challenging aspect of that. Was it pain tolerance? Was it functional? Was it, what was it?
I think the most challenging thing is I wasn't as explosive as I wanted to be, considering I only had like 6.5 weeks to get back on the field from the initial surgery. And then even after the game, that I heard, there were commentators that labeled me selfish for attempting to play or playing in the game.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, which is one of those things. Yeah. And I honestly, I honestly just felt like just because it was me, they had to say something negative about it. Because I guarantee you, had that been someone like a Brett Favre in that situation, they would have. It would have been glorified. I mean, just even with I guess 2 years ago, I guess Tom Brady played in the Super Bowl. I think he had some stitches in his hand,
Yep.
and they thought that was like the most heroic and unselfish thing that they had ever seen. But for me, the challenging thing for me was not being as explosive, because I wasn't 100%. But I did everything, in my power leading up to game day, to get myself ready, and try to at least provide a spark, for the team.
How many shots of Toradol that day?
I didn't take any Toradol.
That's incredible. You passed up the vitamin T with that injury.
No, I actually, no, I didn't take a shot. I ended up taking, I think, the Toradol pill.
Ooh.
So obviously that it takes a little bit longer to take effect. But the only issue that I had when I went out to warm up, because during the course of the week of practice, I didn't tape my ankle or anything, even when I was doing my rehab stuff. So the week of the practice, week of the Super Bowl, obviously, I guess it's a couple of weeks or what have you. So that final week leading to the Super Bowl, that Wednesday was my first practice. Prior to that, I was, just getting treatment around the clock, doing everything I could. I was doing, some on the field stuff, while the team was practicing. But my first time practicing with the team was that Wednesday. And it was so crazy because we were in Jacksonville. And so you thought that we were going to have a lovely Super Bowl. But during that week, it was raining. It was cold. It was just unseasonably cold that week. And so I went out there, and prior to me being on the field, I had no indications of limping, no pain. And I think the weather changed, and the weather, it being cold, it affected me. And so I didn't even know that I was limping, but I got in for a couple of reps, and it discouraged Andy Reid, because he was like, he went to Rick Burkholder, and he was like, yo, he's not going to be ready.
Yeah.
And for me, I was frustrated because I hadn't felt any pain. I wasn't limping, doing any of the agility stuff, the ropes, none of that ladder. I wasn't limping, nothing. And just that particular day, like I said, it was raining, it was cold. I think it affected really what was going on. And he wasn't too sure that I was going to be ready for the Super Bowl. So Rick Burkholder, he stood on the table for me. I guess, obviously as the week progressed, Thursday and then Friday, you go over the injury report of who's going to play, who's not going to play, or what have you. And so even all the way to Friday, Andy wasn't convinced that I was going to be ready to play, but Rick knew. He knew, and he saw the hard work that I had put in. I mean, dude, I was doing everything, around the clock as far as treatment. I had massage therapists there. I was sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, for, pretty much every day. I was taking the supplements, that I needed to help, with my ligaments, the soft tissue, all those things. I did everything that I could to be prepared and ready for the game. And then on Friday, Andy, the reason I know this is because Rick told me the story. He was like, yo, Andy wasn't going to play you. He was prepared to make you inactive. And he said, I stood on that table for you. And he's like, yo, this guy, he goes, and he called me the golden child. He said, yo, the golden child will be ready.
Middle name.
He said, yep, exactly. And so he was like, trust me, he's going to be ready. And so I told Andy too, he had a little talk with me, and he was like, look, you were limping on Wednesday. But I said, coach, trust me, I will be ready. I understand. I said, we don't play on Wednesday. We don't play on Thursday. We play on Sunday. Yeah. So I said, trust me, I'll be ready.
And there was no adrenaline on Wednesday, not just the Toradol pills. Yeah, that's a big deal. Hey, Dom said to say hello, by the way. Big Dom.
Oh, my God. The security. Oh, my gosh, man. This guy was awesome, man.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Another Philly question, because everybody knows the iconic picture for all the amazing things you did on the field. And I kind of hate this for you because holdouts were less accepted last, when you played, like you were kind of ahead of your time, and that like you advocated for yourself and weren't afraid to do that. And that picture of you in your driveway,
right.
Were you in Morristown, by the way?
I was
Okay,
in Morristown, New
my
Jersey.
wife's from Morristown, so I know. I think I know the neighborhood, but I know the picture so well, and everybody knows this picture. Somebody had their fucking shoes off in your driveway. One of these reporters. I don't know if you've ever seen that in the picture. I want to know who it is. Their ugly ass
trust me,
feet
bro.
in your driveway.
Hey, they made themselves extra comfortable
It's like,
that
what?
day, dude. Trust me. Obviously, the reason I was at home is because Andy and we had a bit of a disagreement on something, and he sent me home, and he basically said, "Look, he's like, I'm sending you home." He said, until we get back, he said, keep yourself in shape, and we'll discuss something. We'll discuss things when we get back. So I'm like, all right, cool. So unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. I mean, by the time I guess I got to the dorm and then got on the road back to Philly, obviously the news had gotten a hold of it, and I got into my house, and I started hearing helicopters, but I didn't really think too much of it.
Yeah.
I started hearing helicopters, and then next thing I know, I heard a knock at the door, and I looked through the blinds, and dude, they had the news trucks basically just banked in my driveway. And I mean, they had the tripods and everything set up, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
Yep.
This is crazy to me. And so I talked to my publicist, and I'm like, yo, what should I do? I'm like, I didn't know what to do because they were just camped out at my house. And so at one point in time, I went outside. I had a basketball goal, at the side of the driveway. So I went out, in some flip flops, and I started shooting some hoops. So they got some footage of that. And then the helicopters were, going around. And then I went back in the house. And so I didn't talk when I first went out there. So then I went back in the house, and they knocked on the door again. They was like, yo, can we get a comment, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm talking to my publicist at the time. I'm like, what should I do? So she was like, yo, she's like, go out there. She goes, just go talk to him. She goes, don't give him anything. And I had an earpiece. If you look at that clip, I had an earpiece in my ear. And my publicist, she goes, you have your earpiece? I'm like, yeah. She goes, just go out there. She goes, I can hear everything or what have you. She goes, I'll just talk to you. I'll just give you some stuff to, give to them if it's something, controversial, what have you. So the whole entire time I'm doing push. I mean, I'm doing my sit-ups.
Yeah.
She's hearing everything, all the questions and everything that people were asking me, what have you. So some stuff, she was like, just say no comment or what have you. So that's what I was doing. She was kind of in my ear. It's kind of like having the answers, kind of like having the answers to the test. Yeah. So she was in my ear listening to everything, all the reporters or what have you. And so why I took the ab bench out there was because I'm creative. I just wanted to have fun and try to make light of the moment. I didn't want to make it so big of a deal than it already was, especially with all the media out there. So just
a little levity.
Right. So I just remember Andy telling me to stay in shape and make sure I'm in shape while I'm away.
Doing it.
So that's why I brought out the ab bench. I'm like, okay, well, he said keep myself in shape. So I figured I would go out there, do some crunches and while they were asking me questions.
You had the old school Bluetooth, the uncle at the mall Bluetooth. Yeah. Like
right.
The limo driver one that it was probably unhealthy to wear on your ear. With the taunting stuff going on this week, we thought we'd ask you. You had a few iconic celebrations. You also do NFTs. I hear. If you could NFT one of your celebrations and only one, which one is it?
Oh wow! Well, I would probably go with the most iconic thing that I probably did, and that was probably the catch too. If anything, or probably, let me go a step back. The most iconic would probably be me standing at the star, right? Middle of the star. I would probably say that one. That's what a lot of people knew. And me doing the Sharpie.
Was it Teague that ran up and hit you at the 50 on the star?
Yeah, it was George Teague.
Have y'all talked since then?
No, I don't really. I think we've had a few exchanges, I guess maybe Twitter or something like that, or people have asked me about that situation. And I've made, I kind of just let them in on like really why that happened. It wasn't necessarily because I went to the Star. You have to watch the game to get a full understanding. Like I said, I'm not a great storyteller, but as you would get like, on offense, you know, I was part of different packages. There's goal line packages. Obviously, there's 3 and 4 wides. But as we get to the, you know, close to the goal line, obviously, you know, sometimes they have 2 tight ends, and sometimes they have, you know, if depending on, you know, who you are as a receiver. If you're a dynamic receiver, they're going to throw you in on some goal line packages, and so that's where I was. Obviously, to kind of, you know, put the defense, keep them honest, and then if I'm on the field, then they got to put a defender, or they got to put a DB or a safety, somebody on me. And so I was on the end of the formation. And so, like I said, I could have gone out for a pass or what have you, or I could block. And so they didn't know. So we had a run play. We pretty much had an RPO, and we actually ran the ball, but I was lined up outside the tight end. And so when we ran the ball, obviously Teague had to come up and cover me. So I prided myself on being not just a receiver, but being, you know, physical in the blocking in the run game. Yeah. And so he basically came up because I kind of started off like I was going to run a route. And so he came up, and I basically, like I said, we engaged, and I literally, Chris, he was like baking. I pancaked him. I put bacon on the pancake. So
sounds pretty good. I've done that before.
Hey, and that's what. Hey, if it sounds good, just imagine what it tastes like. So that's how I felt. And so he got pissed because literally, bro. I mean, like I said, I prided myself, you know, for being a physical receiver. Obviously, bigger than some, and bigger some of the defensive safeties. And so I pancaked him, and he was hot. Yeah. So that was his. So when I went to the Star the first time, when I went to the Star the first time, it wasn't a big deal. And then when I went there the second time, that was his opportunity to get me back, because it was shortly after that play of me pancaking him that he wanted to get me back. So I think it was a bit of a pride thing. Yeah. And of course, you know, obviously, you know, he wanted to show his Dallas Stadium that, you know, they wanted to protect their house and court and things of that nature. But that was really why he came out, and then everybody say he like almost like he basically clocked me, but he basically kind of just whiffed me, to be honest. And I took that hit, spun around, fell down or whatever, and got right back up as if it never even really happened. So it wasn't a big deal. Everybody was like, oh, he clocked you. Dude, he didn't. It wasn't even that big of a deal.
He didn't. And, you know, even in slow motion, it doesn't look that violent. But like, right. But the Sean Springs play with the football, I heard the backstory here. Whose suite was it, and how did that thing all go down?
Right. So we have obviously Sean Springs. Obviously, he lives in Arizona. Yeah. And we shared a mutual friend in Greg Eastman, he was a financial advisor or what have you, just a good friend of both of ours. And so we go into Seattle, and I end up seeing Greg at the hotel, you know, before the game. And he had asked me, you know, for like a signed jersey, a ball or something. And I told him, I was like, I don't have anything. And I said, I'll get you one after the game. Yeah. And so he was like, all right, cool. And so, and then he said, oh, you can just give me one, you know, one of the balls from the game. I'm like, all right, cool. So just so happened, we were going, fast forward to the game, we were going toward the suite of where Greg Eastman was. And I didn't really know that that's where he was, to be honest. I had no idea. And so right before that series of when I scored, we had an equipment guy. His name was Doc, who's still with the Niners to today. Oh, that's awesome. We share a story about that. I mean, he became famous because of this whole deal, because I mentioned him. Yeah. So he was on the sideline. And so, you know how, you know, trainers or what have you, equipment guys, they have Sharpies marking on helmets and just this, that, and the other. So he was walking by, and literally out of the blue, I said, Doc. He goes, yeah. I said, you got a Sharpie? And he goes, yeah. So he threw it to me. And then he just thought, I guess he thought I was going to write on something or whatever and give it back to him. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I just stuck it in my sock. And that was it. That was the exchange with us. And so the next series goes by, the defense is on the field and we're up. And so I just had a feeling like I'm going to score and I'm going to sign this ball. For me, it was me being creative of the touchdowns that, touchdown dances or celebrations that I've had up until this point. So I was always trying to find creative ways to kind of one up myself. And I'm like, okay, let me just do this. I honestly, I had no idea it was going to become this big ordeal, to be honest. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm probably going to, they want to talk about the celebration, but I didn't know it was going to be such a big deal.
That ball is worth $1 million. It has to be. I don't know where it is.
And so we go out on the field, and I go out to the left of the formation in Sean Springs. We're 1-on-1, and Jeff called, I think it was a go route. And so I just, I got by him. Jeff kind of underthrew the ball a little bit. I went up and got it, and I kind of took a couple of steps into the end zone. And then I bent down, got the Sharpie, signed it, and gave it to Greg, who was there in the suite.
And it had ink in it, because a lot of these Sharpies, you don't know if they're good Sharpies or bad Sharpies. Could you imagine?
It was a good Sharpie. I figured if Doc was carrying it around at that point in time, it's a good Sharpie. It's a good ink to it.
My favorite one, if I had to NFT one, or if I could possess an NFT of one of your celebrations, would be the popcorn. I think it would just look so cool.
That was one of the NFTs that I did with Blake Jameson, who's a great artist.
Yeah, you wore 81 at every stop. If my research is right, it was 80 at Chattanooga, but you ran into Jerry Rice in San Francisco. So right. You need to tell us about the wine and 81vino.com, but did you ever face any resistance at any stop? Hey, I've been here. I'm tricky. Wearing 81. And did you have to do anything to get it?
Well, I didn't get to wear it in Seattle.
And that's why it didn't work.
That's why it didn't work. If you were wearing 81, it would have worked out. You'd still be.
What's the guy? Golden Tate.
Golden Tate. I played with Golden Tate. Yeah. And
I heard, he wanted me to pay like $1,000 for every number. So he wanted me to pay like 80. Yeah. So I was like, nah. And then even some people, on the low, they was like, out of respect, they was like, yo, let him get 81. But, you know how those young guys are. Yeah. He wasn't really budging on the number. And I didn't, honestly, at the end of the day, for me, I know just the confidence that I had. I'm like, yo, the number really doesn't make me. I'll make a number. You know what I mean? So I just wore 10, obviously for really the 10. The reason I chose 10, it was a girl that I was dating, and in college, she played volleyball and her number was 10. So that's why I got 10.
Oh, nice. That brownie points right there.
Yeah, well, too bad she's married and I think expecting her second kid or something right now. So that happens.
It happens. Two more things. Hall of Fame. I was so happy for you when you got in, but I also know that it was bittersweet because you probably by the time you get in, you're kind of annoyed. I mean, you were obviously very annoyed with the whole process. One, do you feel any differently about not going a couple years later? Okay.
None whatsoever.
And then two, what would you do to fix the Hall of Fame?
I would probably have, or I would, if there was a suggestion box, I would suggest that probably some credible, Hall of Famers that have actually lived and played the game, be on the committee to really be on the board to induct, guys in. I think the ratio of what it is now, it should be more of football players, guys that have developed and played the game and made the Hall of Fame what it is, and then maybe 4 guys from beat writers, to assist and be a part of the process. But right now it's so lopsided. You have guys that have never even played the game and really going off an optic standpoint and even just relationships or just experiences that they've had with players, and they're basing that on whether guys should be in or not. when it should be honestly be about their body of work. And so for me, that's why I took offense to it. Not really the first time. I was like, I knew it was a process, this and that and the other. Although I was disappointed. I was disappointed the first time, but at the end of the day, I always say when you align your expectations with reality, you'll never be disappointed. But there were so many guys that, Hall of Famers and just people that witnessed me play. And just with the class that I had I was in with, they just knew that I was a for sure first ballot. And so once I didn't go in the first time, I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be in the next year. And then when the next year came and I didn't get in, I just felt like it was just the ultimate disrespect. And so when you think about the mission statement, and if you look at the mission statement of the Hall of Fame and what it embodies, you would think and know that I possess and I embodied everything that mission statement says. And so, and my body of work spoke for itself. So when it came to that, I just felt like they basically just overlooked and went beyond the scope of what the Hall of Fame is supposed to represent. And I think a lot of writers took a lot of personal things into account. And after that, I was like, I wasn't too inclined to make my presence, there. So I just took it upon myself to do it with, family and friends and shared it with the fans of whom it really mattered.
And good reception from the guys who were already in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had so many guys that, that reached out to me. A lot of the guys, some which are legends of the game, Hall of Famers that reached out to me. And there were some that they understood, the stance that I took. There were some that didn't like it. And there were some that were on the fence, and they was like, I support you no matter what. And it's like, I understand why you're doing it. It's like, right. and some guys that I talked to probably a couple of years before I had gotten in, they felt the same way that I felt and said that they were going to do exactly what I did. But when it came down to it, they folded. Yeah. But I'm one of those guys. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And at the end of the day, I had a conversation with my family. If they had basically kind of encouraged me to go, then I would have taken that into consideration. But they felt disrespected as well, right. Because everything that I had done on that football field, it wasn't only just for the organizations that I played for. My family, my grandmother who passed in 2012, they were the inspirations for what I became on that football field. I never thought I would play beyond the collegiate level. I wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. And like I said, I got drafted, late third round. So like I said, I didn't come from the worst of situations, but I made myself into a Hall of Famer, unbeknownst to really a lot of people that saw me and witnessed me in high school and college that never knew or had an inkling of an idea that I would probably be a Hall of Famer one day.
81 Vino and Intercept wine go head to head. Who wins? Intercept being Charles Woodson's wine.
I got to. I mean, the name Intercept is very clever. It's very catching. But I mean, I got to go with 81.
You got to catch a touchdown on him.
Oh yeah, of course. And if you look at the head-to-head matchup with me and Charles Woodson, I would have to say that I came out on top.
Oh, I'm not getting in the middle of this one. You two are two of the goats, bro.
All you gotta do is just check the stats, bro.
Okay.
Trust me, I almost had like 200 yards on this guy or the teams that he played on, and like I said, he was the guy that was covering me on the field. So,
well, that would have been a fun one to run the tape back on. Two of the absolute best. We got right. In 2022 potentially we have Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Hines Ward, Steve Smith Sr., and Anquan Bolden. Those are the main wideouts that are up potentially in 22. That's a lot of people who are Hall of Famers here. You know what I mean? But Andre,
who's gonna be mad? That's like having all those guys on one team and there's only one ball.
Right.
Somebody's going to be mad.
Who's getting the ball? In 22. Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Hines Ward, Steve Smith Sr., and Anquan Bolden, who I know is not going in first, but Anquan Bolden, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, you look at Torrey Holt, you think about Reggie Wayne. I mean, these guys were very, very consistent. Helped their teams win Super Bowls. So, I mean, obviously that they feel like that kind of factors into or cements, your your Hall of Fame nod. So I don't know. Like I said, Steve Smith, I mean, he has the numbers. Like I said, that's a tough class. Like I said, at the end of the day, somebody's or a few people are going to be upset.
No doubt about it. It was good to see Isaac get in, and I'm hoping Torrey follows him soon after, because those guys were absolute fucking problems.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, playing against them, I mean, like I said, they were considered the greatest show on turf. Like I said, it was deflating seeing those guys run through our defense. I mean, left and right.
And there's no greatest show on turf without those two guys. I mean, come on now. So
absolutely.
Let's close with doing the obligatory top 5 wide receivers in today's game, so we can put a graphic up.
Before we do that, though, I want to make sure before we go there, I want to make sure that everybody knows where to go get that wine. My 81 wine.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely. It's if you're a cab blend, if you're a red wine lover, I think this is definitely a wine for your palate. It's a cab blend. It's a Cabernet blend with 95% cab, 5% Syrah. So if you have a taste for really, I would say a ripe black cherry, dark chocolate, plum preserves, a hint of cinnamon stick aromas. This wine is for you. Definitely check it out. It's grown in the up in northern California in the Paso Robles vineyards at the La Vigne winery. Definitely, this is something that I was kind of, like I said, it kind of came to a shock to me to be involved with, and I got involved with it because of another Hall of Famer who just passed almost a year ago, Tommy Lasorda.
Oh yeah.
So I partnered with him and his in the Lasorda family wines. So I couldn't be more ecstatic about it. So so if you have like I said, a taste for just a red blend or a red wine, 81 is it for you. And obviously, go check out Charles Wilson's wine as well. I hear his is
after 81.
Exactly. I hear his is pretty good. No doubt.
Yeah. Hey, it's all about the tannins, bro. That's what my man Will Blackman told me. The tannin is more on the drier side. Okay, there we go.
So I wanted to stay away from that. So the feedback that I gave them is really what you're going to taste and you're going to enjoy when you drink 81. So those things that I mentioned, that the tasting notes, dark chocolate, cinnamon stick aromas, the ripe black cherry, and the hint of, what did I say? Yeah, plum preserves. And it's a smooth taste. The Syrah kind of softens it up a bit, so it's not as dry as those tannins, which tannin means.
Could drinking 81 improve his 40 time? Do you know what tell him what your 40 time is before he answers the question, maybe.
T.O. and I are both like 6'3", 6'4" guys.
Same build.
I check in about 165. My 40 time, it's been so long now, literally.
It was
6'1"?
6.1.
6'1".
Could that make him faster drinking 81?
Oh, absolutely. If nothing else, after he drinks maybe a glass or two, he's going to feel like he's faster,
yeah, exactly.
even if he's not.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
So it's all about the feel.
I love it. Top 5 wide receivers in today's game. Who does T.O. like to watch?
Today's game? Oh, my gosh. I'm going to give you Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. This is not in any order, by the way. Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas.
I like A.J. Brown a lot. When you were talking about the West Coast offense, guys that can take
AJ, it. I would say A.J. Brown, too. Yeah. And then on the outside of that, I'm out DK Metcalf. Yeah. For me, like I said, a number of the guys that I've mentioned, obviously, like I said, A.J. Brown, like he's proven himself over the last few years. It's just the consistency.
Right.
That's what's so key, and really guys becoming Hall of Famers. Yeah, you can be good, but what makes you great? And so those are some of the things of the guys that I've mentioned is just they've been pretty consistent with the teams that they've played with.
Absolutely. You heard it here. Terrell Owens.
Terrell.
Oh, fuck me, dude. Did I do it again?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
What percentage?
No, I did it right the second time. Didn't I say, which is it, Terrell or
No,
I said
T.O. and I
Terrell.
said Terrell at the same time. You said Terrell.
I thought I said Terrell the first time.
That's all right.
Absolutely.
Fuck me, dude. One time I had Matthew McConaughey on here. I called him Matt off the top, and he was like, no one calls me Matt. And then the interview started. Well, he was much cooler about it, but you can imagine. All right. So you want to close it out? You want to close it out?
Terrell Owens.
Okay, there we go.
81vino.com.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining
Absolutely.
me.
Hey, dude.
I got a lot of things brewing too, not just the wine, but I got a candle line coming too. Go to sultryaura.com.
Sultryaura.com.
I have candles. I already mentioned the one, which is it's the wine pairing candle. It's called Le Ray, but I haven't mentioned, we didn't talk about it while we were on the show, but my 3 pillars of success is my 3 Ds. It's desire, dedication, and discipline. So we have candles designated and fragrances designated to those 3 pillars. So there's a fragrance for desire, there's a fragrance for dedication, there's a fragrance for discipline. Ooh. And I've already told you about the wine pairing one, which is in a gold vessel, Le Ray, which means golden one or golden child. And my clothing line, who also is coming out, which is obviously a derivative of what I've accomplished throughout the course of my career. It's called Prototype 81. And how I got to the name of Prototype 81, this is gonna, you guys are gonna hear and understand my creativity. I'm bringing to you right now is that I wanted to have something unique. Obviously, prototype, you think, oh, that's not really unique. Obviously, 81, that's my number. Right. But if you think about prototype and you look up the definition of prototype, you will come up with a definition similar to it goes, or it reads, the basis on which something is made or formed. All of us are prototypes in a sense. And so for me, I'm Prototype 81, which obviously, reason my numbers at the end. But if you think about, this is the creative part. If you think about the word prototype, just you see it. You can't spell prototype without T-O.
I like that. I like that. But the only problem is they're only making one of you. There's not another T.O. I haven't seen another
T.O. So that's what I'm saying. I'm Prototype.
Yeah.
There's millions of prototypes across the world.
Yeah, you can't repeat
I just happen
that.
to be Right. I just happen to be Prototype 81.
Yeah.
So that's getting ready to launch here pretty soon. It's a men's and women's line.
Yeah.
And I have a small collection for all the people, your listeners, your female listeners out there with kids. I have a small collection for kids called Prototype 81 Kids. So yeah, it's hoodies, joggers, crop tops, leggings, tees, things of that nature, which really some bold prints, really kind of reflective of my career, just unique, bold, and just, very fashionable.
We're going to be lighting desire, not desire here. What's the other one?
Dedication.
Desire, dedication, and discipline.
Discipline is going to be right here in the fucking workplace.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
Desires
exactly.
for the house.
And that's the idea of all the candles is, you light those, there's intention behind those candles.
This is all we got here is just some gas station prayer candles. We need some T.O. candles. T.O.,
dude, man, come on, dog. We got to get you. Hey, when I got to come back on the show, I'm going to look at some more episodes. I want to see desire, dedication, discipline.
Reed, you on this?
I
want all 3 overnight.
Put my name on it though, because he's looking for my name.
On it
okay.
I want to see those. Like I said, all your listeners pre-order. Go to sultryaura.com. Look up those candles.
Dude,
get you some candles.
You're the man. Thank you so much for the time, and come back.
Oh man, I enjoyed it, man. Anytime.
Okay, bro. See ya.